Hey, photographytricks.com, it's Evan Charbonneau, and today I'm going to be showing you how to take a picture using a multiplicity technique. Now what this is where you can take several photos with your camera and then combine them in Photoshop after the fact. And what you can do is basically multiply objects, people, or animals, make clones of them. And this also works very well with shooting skateboarders and anything to do with sports. It's a good way to show action by taking multiple frames with a high frames per second camera and then getting all those frames in the same shot. So I'm just going to be showing you how to do a very basic one right now. I'm going to be taking a picture of myself, and I'm going to be using a remote controller for my camera. If you want to take a picture of yourself and you don't have a remote controller, you can always use the self timer on your camera. That's totally fine. Or you could just get a friend to take the photos. So the first thing that you're going to want to have is a sturdy tripod. Make sure that's absolutely necessary that you have that, because we need the shots to be perfectly still throughout all the different shots. Next, you're going to want to make sure that you put your camera on full manual mode. That means manual white balance, manual focus, and of course manual aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. So completely manual, and the reason behind that is that we need to have all the pictures consistent. They need to have the same lighting in them and the same depth of field and all of that. If you are taking the pictures outside and there's clouds going past the sun, that can sometimes mess things up a little bit, but if that does happen, you can always kind of brighten up that specific frame later on the computer, and you can sometimes get away with it. So just something to keep in mind. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to be using my remote control to take several different shots of me in different areas of the frame, and then we're going to go on the computer and then combine those. Alright, so here's the three pictures that I just took. There's this one, and this one. And as you can see, the lighting is the same in all of them. Alright, so once you have your three pictures, you're going to want to select one of them and then drag it into the main Photoshop canvas area. Then that will show up in there, and after that you're going to want to grab the remaining ones that you have and then drag them onto that document that you just created. So right on top of the canvas, and there'll be a little X that might pop up. If that pops up, just push enter to get rid of that and put that in there, and then enter again to put the other one in there. Now all you have to do is, starting from the top layer, we can see that this is the top layer, and all we have to do is create a layer mask on that layer. So go down to the bottom and click this layer mask button, and then be sure to click that layer mask that you just created right here to make sure that it's selected. In other words, you don't want the actual layer selected, you want the layer mask selected. Then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to grab a black paintbrush, and then you're just going to want to paint over the subject, and you're also going to want to make sure you get the shadows in there as well. Once that's gone, you're going to want to go back to your layer mask and then push Control I, and what that will do is that will invert the layer mask. So now we can see that we can have the top layer be visible only in the white areas of the layer mask. That's the only thing that's showing up in that layer. And the black stuff in the layer mask is pretty much gone. It's not visible. It's pretty much erased. And the second layer is it's just the second layer, but we haven't added the layer mask yet. So let's do that right now. Let's add another layer mask, and let's grab this black paintbrush again. Whoops. See, I didn't have the background turned on, so that's another thing that really helps. Make sure you have all your layers turned on. So I just click the eyeball, and now that won't happen. So now when I go back and I apply the paintbrush on here, it'll all look fine. Alright, so I'm just going to invert that, and there we go. if you zoom in very, very closely, you can see there is kind of inconsistent lighting. So you're just going to want to make sure, if that happens, just maybe get a really soft brush and kind of ease in the light. There. So now you can't even tell. So now that looks pretty good. And if you did have one layer that was slightly darker or brighter, what you could do is adjust the exposure on that one layer if you really needed to. If for some reason it was brighter or darker, you could always go in on that specific layer to make it brighter or darker to match it perfectly with the other ones. But we don't have to do that. So all I'm going to do now is apply a crop to this. Ideally, I would actually want it cropped right here, because if I cropped it right there, you could see the edges of the wall would go into the corners, and that would create actually a pretty cool effect. But I'm not going to do that for this picture because actually I will. I'm going to keep it like that. I'm just going to keep it like this, but I'm going to get rid of that guy. And now I get the cool effect of the corners. All the corners of this room match up perfectly to the corners of the frame itself. And that is kind of a cool artistic thing. Then when you're all done, you can go to Layer, Flatten Image, and then it's all one thing. And then you can, adjust the brightness and the color and all that. I think it would actually look good in black and white. I'm not going to mess with the black and white too much, but I do think it does look good black and white. So, and then later on, if we wanted to, we could come in here and use the clone stamp tool by pushing shift backspace after making a selection, and use the content aware fill to get rid of little distractions that aren't really necessary. And then it would be a pretty good image. There it is. That's how you do the multiplicity technique. If you like this video tutorial, be sure to check out my ebook that I have up for sale called Trick Photography and Special Effects. There's 300 pages and 9 hours of video content that goes over several different tricks just like this one. And all of the tricks are very different, unique, creative, artistic stuff that's different from all the other stuff you see out there. The link for that will be down below in the description of this video, so be sure to check that out and click that link. And you can also find me on my website, photoextremist.com, as well. So, thanks for watching, and see you later.